reached in and grabbed it. What a rock lobster!
Standings of the B-52s with the arthropod, based hit Rock Lobster.
Doesn't he play midfield for Malaga?
Oh, nice. There we go. Save the jokes till
joke time
forever. Well, B-52s. Where are any other tracks? B-52s. Can you get any other?
Love Shack.
Oh, Love Shack. Yeah.
Some one with Iain.
Oh yes. Yeah. So loads then essentially. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, tonight's show comes in association with the Mark Halsey Foundation, ruining Premier League football since 1999. Alongside me I have a beautiful selection of manhood. Returning from a brief Scandinavian sojourn, refreshed and chock full of herring, no doubt, or at least I think that's what I can smell. It's 50s throwback Stuart Wright, everybody. There he is. You alright?
I'm very well, thank you.
Yeah, you should have got a larger in that t-shirt.
I know. Or I should have been smaller.
Yeah, that probably more importantly. And alongside him, former Liverpool Echo, now Times journalist, one of the few journalists that seems to write any sense about Liverpool, raising the journalistic credibility. How many too many journalists in that sentence? Raising the journalist credibility to a new high. Not such a big achievement as it sounds. Ladies and gentlemen, hot shot hack, Tony Evans.
I'm going to go that far.
And also, we'll talk about the farm in a minute. Also, used to be in the farm, and now is like Mr. Times. That journey is going to be interesting. And alongside me here, fresh from buying another complete outfit from the Liverpool store on Sunday. There must be very little left now in the wardrobe, which isn't made of man-made fibres, hence why he crackles when he walks. Let's hope it's crackling. Ladies and gentlemen, Wilburforce McCrimmon Moose.
Thank you.
There we are. So, we've got a couple of games to talk about, an awful lot to talk about, I think. It's been another one of those weird emotional weeks. But two amazing games of football, I think. I want to start with young boys, as always. Ironically, like a playground game. It was bizarre. It was like, whoa, we're going to score! Whoa, we're going to score! Whoa! It was bizarre. It was a bizarre game, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it was all over the place. I mean, young boys are not a very good side, and the decision to play the kids, which looked reasonable before the Man United game, was great. I mean, it turns out well. You do worry though. I mean, playing a lot of these lads from the academy too young might spoil them. I worry about Raheem Sterling in particular. I think he should be nursed along. But no, it was great to see someone. Great to see Suso. It was and you can see the potential there. Rafa revamped the academy, and he's left us a legacy, a heritage there, which I think we'll profit from in the next 5 years.
And is that work being continued? Is that continuing? Or is it all waned off a bit because he's left and stuff, or is there still a foundation there?
The academy's in great hands.
Right.
Frank McParland is
right.
quality football man and a quality human being. So I think as long as no one messes with it, we'll be seeing players from the next decade.
50 Stu, did you see the game in Scandinavia?
Yeah. No, I was back by then, so it's not sorry.
Is it yeah, or is it no?
No, yes, I
just
was
make
back
your mind
from
up.
Norway. I was back from Norway by then.
That's 2 positives, 2 negatives. A positive and negative mean it's a positive, so it's a yes, you did.
It was, yes. It was a surreal game because it never felt like when you're watching it, even when we were losing, it didn't feel like we were going to lose the game, but you weren't particularly going to be overawed if we weren't, and that's a weird feeling watching a game of football. That your concern is more for I hope they do all right. The same reason you're talking about there, the younger players that we've got.
Didn't it feel like going, Tony, to me, in some respects, I actually, this season, as I said in the last podcast, I think we're going to have to sacrifice two things, and one will be one of next week's games as well. But if we sacrifice the Europa League, but we get the experience in the what's now called the development squad, allegedly as it is, but I felt like watching my lads play on a Sunday morning.
It was fun. It was really good fun.
Really enjoyed
But
it
apparently
actually,
they're
but I didn't enjoy it. It didn't really matter to me what the result was. I just thoroughly enjoyed
Wasn't
it.
the knock-on effect that the next gen team was actually like the under-16s or something?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
so many players have been,
It's a 15-year-old kid playing
graduated
in there,
up
yeah.
towards the first team level.
I think for me, you know, it was a bit Sunday league. Well, I can't help myself. I think if you enter a competition, you got to try and win it.
Yeah.
And you know, everyone laughs at the Europa League. But when it was the UEFA Cup, one of the great nights of my life was in Dortmund.
Yeah.
Another Sunday league game, mind you.
Yeah.
But sort of, and to me, it's about going to these big occasions and and all the fun that's involved in it, and and the experiences and the adventures, and I think throwing away a chance to do that, I think it's a mistake personally.
But I don't think. Presumably, what he's doing is balancing the probability of a team beating us with the probability of us actually, he's playing the maths, isn't he? Because actually, if you needed to win that game to get through to the next presumably we've got to play. It's a kind of league system now, and then we've got to get through to.
Weakened team against Hearts, did he?
No, because we needed to get through.
But also,
but we paid the price for that against Arsenal.
But the message of last year, which is disturbing, is that cups don't matter.
Yeah, that's very true.
And I hate that message. I think it's the wrong message. I think cups do matter. I want to win cups.
Yeah. I want to win every trophy they were in.
We said last year it's great. It must be great to be an Arsenal fan and drive around an open top bus showing off your bank balance to everybody.
Well, exactly, yeah.
I've got a few notes on that. I thought that Stuart was very keen on my best friend Jordan, but I just wondering, yes, he did look good, but in response, Stuart and I thought a little bout on that, but I think he should look good against young boys of Switzerland.
Well,
to
he
be
looks different
completely
when he
honest.
plays in his when he plays in his position. If he's playing central midfield, he was one of the young decent central midfield players. He's not a flair player.
I was impressed with Quartes. I was impressed with Suso. Impressed with Wisdom.
Wisdom was great.
Yeah, I thought.
God, he looks like
he
looks magnificent, but also he looks like he could go into. He's physically ready to go into the physical. Because you think Sterling, you think, oh God, he's still a bit lightweight, isn't he? But he's a striker, so he can get away with that. But Wisdom could. And we might need him. Wisdom could probably play centre half now.
There was a fantastic meme which I'll make sure James gets and puts on at this point. There's a fantastic meme before it of Wisdom doing a very solemn face that went round. It went, "Don't worry, I've got this." Before the game kicks off.
Well, the knock-on effect of all that was when he brought Shelvey on.
Yeah.
You got the sense that Shelvey believed he was a cut above that team, and he was like almost, even though he's 20, he was like the equivalent of the senior squad member.
I was
going to
talk about Shelvey
because he did, didn't he?
All my notes are out of order now, so let's talk about Shelvey now. Because suddenly, Shelvey's like his first choice now, isn't he? Yeah. His first choice. He's leapfrogged.
While Lucas is in.
He's leapfrogged Henderson, Downing, Sahin. Coyle, who's apparently fit, and
he still with us?
he's still with. Remember him? He's now and should be, because actually we'll go to the United game in a bit, but for the period of time he was on the field, he was great. I think it's great because we've all talked about the last couple of seasons about that whole thing about midfield players not filling the shirt up because they're just wanting to get the ball and give it to Gerrard and
actually Gerrard literally
actually giving the ball to Gerrard isn't what it was. Gerrard's got to change his game as well, which is the last couple of games there's signs that Gerrard obviously is realising that's what he's going to do. But my other notes, I've got Wisdom looked the class act, Enrique not so much.
My thoughts were more like a brick.
What's up in your eyes, Tony? Like this time last year, he was one of our best players when he came. What's happened to him?
I think we oversold him a little bit. He was great going forward. He was never been the greatest defender in the world. I think he run out of steam. You know, he's probably played a little bit too much. I think probably in those first few weeks we thought he was better than he was.
Right.
You know, it's I don't think he's the long-term answer.
Is that in comparison to the fact that if you go back to before Enrique, we didn't really have a left back actually for quite some period of time.
And also, he was a £5 million signing, being
yeah.
compared to Downing and Henderson.
Yeah.
They didn't seem to be worth their weight, did they?
Exactly.
Well, that was the other question, and is that how far has Downing now gone down the pecking order that he's actually playing in the team full of kids? And the converse answer to the question is that could Downing be the answer to the left back problem?
No, I think Downing's so far down the pecking order. You know, when they have the dustbins at Melwood, he's replaced one of the dustbins. You know, I mean, I'm not Downing.
That's an expensive dustbin.
The worst thing about Downing is you talk to players, you talk to people around the club. He's brilliant in training. He's brilliant in training. And you know what? That's always what bothers me about. I hate players like that because you know, when they're around the mates, they show off, they can do a bit. When the going gets tough, there's a little bit of fear, and you know, and he doesn't want to try things. And Downing's got talent. Clearly, he's got talent.
Yeah, he's got everything. Hasn't he?
Not 20 million's worth of talent, mind. But you know what?
About 12.
Yeah, and that would have been a reasonable price.
At the time.
A bit overpriced.
Yeah.
But you know what? He should be doing better. He just doesn't have the personality. He doesn't have the character to do it.
He does, as we've always said, he's one of those guys that's never going to fill the Liverpool shirt. He just finds it too heavy.
Surely there must be a way of motivating the kid to do it.
Well, it looked like in the Young Boys game that he was taking his inspiration from what is it Asadi?
Yeah,
Well,
he
seen him
great,
beat. He was seeing him beat players. He thought, I'll have a go at that. And
he looked great.
That's how you start your career down. And why do you think?
But if you've seen a 17-year-old kid, Sterling, now be first choice, take your place, and actually
I'd be too embarrassed to go into Wales.
I would, yeah.
You know, I'd be humiliated.
So you just summed that up. That's exactly what when Reza Radikon said exactly the same thing. They go to work. For us, we're talking about football.
Yeah.
You're going to work where you've been replaced by a 17-year-old kid.
Yeah.
Now put that in your own context. You know,
absolutely.
that's
It's like an intern, isn't it?
Yeah.
To be honest, in telly it works. Or it'd be a woman. It'd be a woman in my case.
What is interesting, you know, in sort of the Kenny buys, which, you know, obviously have received a lot of criticism. You talk to the Newcastle players, and they'd all say, "Don't worry about Carroll. He's a bit daft. He's going to come good." And some of them said he's got the potential to be better than Shearer.
Yeah.
You talk to the Sunderland players and go, "You know what? He's you know, Henderson's a bit young. He's a bit like he needs to mature a little bit, but he's got it. Don't worry about it." You talk to the Villa players and they go, "He's great in training."
So it's like a broken record, that one.
I'm going to name check the Liverpool Way here, who sell the magazine outside the grounds, purely and simply for the best front cover of this weekend of a magazine I've seen. It's a picture of Stuart, and it says, "Downing salutes his fans," and the speech bubble says, "Hello, ma'am. Hello, dad."
I'm not even sure they're into
Did you notice they had this is the team called Young Boys who play. Where do they play?
You've led me straight into my headline, really, because if I was writing a headline, it would have been "Young Boys rogered in the wanked off."
Good.
I'll tell you what, if you're one of my sub-editors, I'd be like, "Come here, son." I mean, you need to have words.
But they're not helping themselves. They've got a player who's called Sphincter as well, I think. So it's not helping themselves, are they?
They didn't help themselves on the night. I mean, that is one of the best own goals I've ever
that
seen.
Was brilliant. Wasn't Keystone Cops? It was fantastic. Yeah, exactly. It was hilarious, wasn't it? Yeah, because it was a big game for me. You can see the fans were really pumped up for it. You're really pumped up for it. And then you go and you do that, you must think, "Oh Jesus, this is not going to go well." And then you know, we did our own version of Keystone Cops.
Did you notice like a lot of the kind of paraphernalia in the crowd? It seemed like they were like aping like the ultras, wasn't it? The Italians, you know, like they had like.
No, they're fans. They have the Young Boys. They're Young Boys Ultras. They are the Young Boys Ultras.
Let's have that, do they?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, there's some bad crews over there.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
Yeah.
You know.
Football's not so good, but the violence is great.
Yeah.
So
I mean, Tony, what was your overall? You know, just looking at it.
Lots of gold.
What did you think overall
overall, it was nice to see the kids get a game. I don't think we've learned anything particularly from it.
I think we've learnt wisdom's ready.
No, I mean, I think he's got a long way to go in positional awareness.
Yeah.
He's still learning everything. I think if you threw him in now, in the Premier League against top quality forwards, I think he'd really struggle. But like this, is a kid who's going to grow and he's going to be good. The most difficult thing for any centre half is to get a sense of position, how to get his body shape right, how to turn men in and out, wait for cover, wait for help, and he's still working on that. Because I mean, you don't see many young centre halves, do you?
No.
And it's because it's perhaps the most difficult position on the pitch.
You're still working on your body shape,
absolutely,
aren't you?
yeah. 2 stone down and going. No, I felt for Jamie on the night because that's the first time. No, I actually felt he looked like a man struggling with a team of 13-year-olds around him.
This vehicle is reversing. It was a bit like that, wasn't it? I mean,
he's been a great servant.
He's been essentially one of the greatest defenders in the history of the club. I won't European football.
I won't have many bad words said about him.
What a fantastic servant.
He got the whole thing with Rafa wrong. What went on there is it's a small black mark on him. But you know what? He has been magnificent, and he's reaching the end. And it's. But you know what? If anyone ever has any criticism of him, they just shut their eyes and imagine him in Istanbul, stretching out. So it's and what Jay has got, he's got the ability to galvanise the kids to teach them things.
Hopefully he'll be you're talking about Andre Wilson. We're learning all those things. You just keep him at the club, and he can teach those lads how to do it.
It was interesting.
He does it on the pitch anyway. He just shouts and shouts and shouts.
I had a conversation with someone at the club this week, and they were saying, when he played, when the young lads were around him, they learnt loads. Because he's down their ear all the time. We have to sit too deep when he plays because he doesn't want to give anyone a cushion. Ball goes over his head and it's over these days. But he has the ability to teach them, to give them some direction. And I would hope he stays at the club, and I would hope he's part of things.
Well, you'd like to see that as the establishment of a new boot room, really, wouldn't you? I mean, Jamie going into coaching and management, Mike Marsh going into coaching, going into management with the club. It would be a really nice step, and I can't think of someone better placed to do it, to be honest.
I also think it'd probably benefit him to go away and learn elsewhere for a while. It's because he's been at the club a long time, and it's been a time of turmoil. But I think it'd be a shame to lose what he's got, his heart, his knowledge. He's.
I'd hate to see him turn into a neutered BBC pundit.
No, I think he'll stay in the game.
Rodgers has made enough noises to say he'd want him to, hasn't he?
Strangely though,
in this short space of time he's been there.
Within telly, because I work in telly, there is talk that they were impressed with the stuff he's done, but I just think how can people understand what the fuck he says? Because but I mean genuinely, because he has got such a strong accent.
He's from Bootle.
I mean, obviously I understand what he's on about, but
let's be honest. People from Bootle are strange.
Yeah, well, in a nice way.
No.
Do you know, at this point, I think James has to play in a piece of, we're going to do this, a piece of dear old Darren Farley being Jamie, just to give all of our listeners in Niger a full-on taste of what it's all about, actually, as well.
Okay, moving on now, we're going to move on to Liverpool vice-captain Jamie Carragher. Legend! Right, Jamie, you've played with some, obviously, you played with so many defensive partners in the past. I mean, has the language barrier been really difficult for them? No, I don't think so. I think obviously the scene, we got to say, but no, I said something, I think, the scene, said to Sammy, Sammy, if you said to that, said to him, I just said to that, but it was alright, so, and the lad was a left back, the right back, so I'm screaming at Joe Gerrard, and he's going for, and I mean, he doesn't know, but the centre, he's going, the scene, so like that, the scene, I was scene, I don't know, and he's screaming, out was the scene, so, I don't think they've got a problem understanding me, no? Thanks, Jamie. That's enough from you.
But you know, the thing is about that is that I sometimes just think, oh God, your accent's so bad and you're on the telly. It's just like, this is not good telly. It's really hard, that, isn't it? Yeah, but anyway.
I believe all BBC people should talk in Scots. I believe everyone should talk Scots. And I don't think, I don't want to hear any other accent, frankly. It's simple as that.
Fair enough.
Can I? You said about things. Maybe not. He didn't learn too much from the game. I thought he would have seen that Henderson's at least up for the challenge of getting in the first 11.
I think he is.
He saw that, if nothing else. I know young boys weren't the best opposition, but
do you know what though? The problem is, I don't think he wants Henderson at any price. He was going to swap Henderson, an 18 million kid. He was going to swap him for Clint Dempsey.
Yeah. It was a 3 million plus Henderson, 4 million. So he's going to give him away for £4 million.
Insane. I think Henderson's got something about him. I think it'll take a long time.
But I'd actually like to think. I actually agree with Tony. To be honest, I don't think Brendan wants him anywhere around. But I actually would like to think that what we're doing with Jordan now is what Kenny should have done with Jordan, and is the old, but we couldn't do. But is the old-fashioned Liverpool way, was you buy a player and you bring them in that way through it. But we couldn't do it. When you spend 20 million on a kid and your owners are there saying we want to see him play.
Kenny always said he wasn't bought for last year.
No.
Yeah.
He was bought eventually to be Stevens' replacement.
Yeah.
Now that's a stretch. Because no one will ever replace him,
But he plays in the same position. You can't play him in the same team.
But they knew he was going to be a project. They knew it would take 2 or 3 years, and they knew that he's a little bit insecure. He's a little bit he needs a little bit. So I mean, it's. Well, I think we'll start to see him blossom this season. Hopefully, it'll be for us. I don't think it will be.
I mean, be going in January. Yes,
I think. I think if they were clever, what we've learned over the last 2 seasons is that we need another Lucas when Lucas is not there. What they should be turning him into is another Lucas, because I think Shelby's nearer to a new Gerrard. I think because he's got that belief.
I would say nowhere near ability, but I agree with you. We said many times, John Joe, for me, when he takes the pitch, has got a massive pair of balls to go with the tiny cock, but I just think that the lad exudes swagger and probably overconfidence. But I'd much rather have an overconfident, swaggering sod out there than somebody.
We'll move on to the over swaggering confidence in the United game. But go on, you say.
I was going to say, I mean, Lucas is a perfect example of someone who has to grow and develop. Yeah. I know everyone wants it now, and they want it, but Lucas was never as bad as everyone said he was, and he's probably not as good as everyone claims he is now. Yeah. He's somewhere in the middle, but he'll do a really good job for you, and that's the most important thing. Get people to do the job.
As Brendan said, Lucas is a disciple.
Yeah, you had a very strong manager there though. When people were slagging him off, and everybody was slagging him off, he stuck with him.
The way some people who looked and said, he's not that bad. You can see he's got potential. I was someone who couldn't believe the stick he was getting. Yeah. But you know what it's like when someone becomes a whipping boy. Yeah. And things are not perceived to be going well, then you're really struggling. You look back, not going well. I'll tell you what, it looks like a golden age now.
But also as well, if you're being compared in midfield, if everyone that comes into the team is compared to, and that was like Gerrard sort of peaking at that point, wasn't it? You had Lucas coming into the team at a time when Gerrard was peaking.
But let's be honest.
And you're thinking, he's not. You can't compare him to.
Stu, he was a Brazilian. He was a Brazilian. So we all sat there and went, do something Brazilian.
Yeah, but he was a dunker there.
Exactly, but he was a dour Brazilian.
The only other thing I've got to note here, we haven't really talked about, we touched on it earlier, but was Sahin. Anybody?
He's 5 to 10 games of being match fit.
Yeah, he's getting fit.
Yeah, but have you seen anything yet that?
It's a lot of money.
Haven't we got a lot of that already?
I don't get it. I'm not so sure. I mean, he might prove me wrong. Yeah. I'm led to believe the deal is essentially he comes over and we have a right to buy. It's complicated. We have a right to buy for 12 million if he does well. But if Real Madrid want him back, then they'll give us 3 million.
Okay.
So, but I've been told it's so complicated that it's difficult to explain, even though I managed to
It was told to me. It was told
Let's
to
get,
me.
let's get Jimmy Carragher in to explain.
You're far more well informed than me. But it was told to me that Jabby basically, because it was swapping backwards and forwards from Arsenal, right? And the story came to me that Alonso said to him, "Go to Liverpool. You won't want to come back."
Alonso was very important in this deal.
Right.
Xavi made, in fact, he should be his agent. He should get a fee for this.
Hopefully he'll come over with him.
Well,
that'd be nice.
Oh, I'll tell you what. What wouldn't you give for him back?
Fuck me.
Well, if you go back to the days, let's look at it when we were arguing over Lucas being the weak link in Lucas, Alonso, Gerrard and Mascherano. Eh?
Yeah, well,
Seems a long time ago, doesn't it?
We'll be back there soon. I think our midfield, moving on to the Man United game, just slightly moving that in. I thought our midfield, the midfield we started, I thought, hello, this is a really good midfield list. This is a good midfield, and the way they're holding the ball, the way they're bossing this midfield, we've got the makings of it, and we've got Joe Cole to come back into this, and Sahin to.
So he might make it. Joe Cole's going to go straight in the development squad.
To do with the fact that, luckily, Joe Allen has hit the ground running because if he, that would have been.
How many years has he been here now?
Yeah. You say you talked about Lucas. There's your comparison: Fabio Borini and Lucas. Now, just before we arrived here today, my ginger friend on TalkSport was talking some absolute rubbish, as he does to generate listeners, about Liverpool are in the bottom three. Brendan's done it wrong. People placed their faith in wrong players, and Brendan's placed his faith in Borini. I think personally, Borini fits exactly what you said about Henderson. Borini wasn't brought in to start. I don't believe Borini was brought in to start. I believe the two other forwards he had his eyes on, where it all went pear-shaped, were probably in his targets to start in front of Borini. Borini now starts as a necessity. The thing I think that the Liverpool fans have got, that we've all got, is we look at Joe Allen, who's Brendan's man, and we go, he's fucking boss. He gets it. He's absolutely superb at what he does, and he makes this all work. And then we look at Borini, who's Brendan's man, and we go, nah, we kept you over Andy Carroll, and that's the problem.
I have a little bit of a problem with Joe Allen because, I know people go all the time, pass completion. We play too much in our own final thirds of the field and not in the opposition's final thirds, and too much is Joe Allen the square and backwards. I'd rather see him waste a couple of balls but put them into the dangerous areas. So I think we need to get him playing.
But don't you think he's asked Joe Allen to sit where Lucas would play? Because normally I think Joe would be probably replace Shelvey.
He said as
I would
much
think
in
it would be
those
Joe and Stevie would be, because I remember when Brendan did his recent meeting with the interview with the fans of the podcast and things. He said that he has the one that sits and the two that go forward, depending on who he's playing. And I actually think that it'll be Allen and Gerrard would be his two that would be the choice to go forward.
Think because there's no one who can do the holding role properly. I think he should move to a 4.
Yeah.
And get Joe Allen forward, because I don't think his strength is sitting deeper.
I think Gerrard should be sitting deeper.
No, I don't. I think Gerrard's got any discipline.
I do the opposite.
But he used to.
I'd put Gerrard in the front three personally.
I play him in the half and half.
Yeah, me and so would I. Totally.
Because he's the only one who's going to score goals.
Yeah.
Borini looks like an old inside forward to me. He doesn't look like a centre forward, a goal scorer. So I mean, and Suarez, too often the shot's an afterthought. Yeah. We're very frustrated.
No, it's beat the man first rather than get the shot away.
Well, that was the United game, wasn't it? I mean, how many times did we scream, "Oh, fucking shoot, shoot!"
Come on, he got through 90 minutes without getting booked.
Yeah,
this week for the first time.
It was a good boy this week.
Let's look at the game right before the game started, and I'll move on to.
Well, Iain was in the cup. I was in the centre.
And it was incredibly moving, and it was amazing. Although, to be honest with you, the whole thing about the first minute, where we all held up for the first minute, and the game was going on, I was doing a bit of that, thinking, fucking, I'm gonna score, fucking, I'm gonna score. But it was amazing. It was an incredibly powerful statement, that, and it's like, and also it was incredibly powerful to begin with, but the whole the stadium was full of it, but also to ignore the first bit of the game as well and do it the first bit of the game was an incredibly powerful thing. And you know, let's not.
That was totally unscripted. That's typical cop. That was totally unscripted. Wasn't it, to go into the first minute of the game?
There was talk of it actually, but still, it was an incredible thing, I think. And then to start a game where we're bossing it, totally bossing it. You think, actually, you know, this is amazing. This is amazing. This is like a perfect day. This is fantastic. We're bossing the game. Beautiful. The midfield looks amazing. It's buzzing. It's pairing and all that sort of stuff. It was just going to be the most perfect day, and you could have played that there. But then it all went shitty. And I have a theory about Ferguson and United and why he's such a fucking brilliant manager. Because if he's not winning matches fairly, he will win a match any way he likes, and he'll tell people to throw themselves on the floor. He'll tell people to get somebody sent off. He'll find out that somebody said something which could be misconstrued as calling somebody a nigger, and that's what he'll do. He will do everything he can to make it the best for his team. He's a brilliant football manager. You can't deny it. It's he's one of my least favourite people on the entire planet. But you know, you can't deny what he does. What his teams do, and what was, you know, you saw it on Sunday. You saw it more than anything. Is when things are going against them, they hang on. You know, it's and you know, and that takes a lot of character. And they wait for the opposition to make mistakes. Yeah. You know, he's got them in a situation where they don't make the mistakes as frequently as we do, and we made a mistake. And well, we were in the ground. I was fortunately, Stuart was my action replay guy, and if you go through that, I mean, I have a lot of sympathy for referees. I have a phenomenal amount of sympathy for referees, but I have very little sympathy for referees that make a rod for their own back. I'm not necessarily saying, for my opinion, the Shelvey decision was a referee making a rod for his own back, but the failure after that, Van Persie, you could easily say from where he went that, for me, both Evans' feet are off the floor in that challenge. Shelvey, it's 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. I think the rolling round, for me, the rolling round on the floor from Johnny Evans, who miraculously 30 seconds later comes back and joins the play.
The problem was before that. There was two decisions Alsey made. He let Shelvey off when he should have yellow carded him, and he let Evra off when he should have yellow carded him. When Evra went through the back of Sterling, and just 5 minutes before that, I can't remember who Shelvey fouled, but he did foul him, and he basically did that classic referee has a quiet word with him. But actually, that's when he should have booked him, and that would have stamped the game, and that would have.
Stuart, there were 3 others. Raphael. It happens every 30 seconds, but right in front of the main stand, Raphael elbowed Gerrard in the face, just literally both running down the wing. Gerrard had him in that first 5 yards. The elbow went straight in the face. It was as in front of the linesman as I am to Tony. And you get nothing, right? And it's from that moment on that a referee, in my opinion, starts to make a rod for his own back. Van Persie should have gone. If Shelvey went, Van Persie should have gone, effectively. Well, but he could have sent 5 off in that game for nonsense.
I gotta say, I've refereed myself, and it's you know, things happen really fast. I thought all of the decisions could have gone either way, and I didn't think any of them were so horrible that you could hope he could die of cancer. No. You know, only an idiot.
No, that's disgusting.
I agree with you, Tony, and my argument would be that actually the majority of the stuff was all right, and actually I probably wouldn't have given penalties for anything.
No, I agree with that.
Or I probably wouldn't have given yellow cards for the majority, because my worry now is that football has got to such a stage where there isn't any physical contact really, and actually, you know, we were doing it when because after Shelvey had been sent off, and Halsey, his balls went then, and he obviously he didn't know what was going on. I mean,
you're right. I think he lost the ability to make any sort of decision.
But then the cop, any time there was a tackle, anytime we're going fucking. What about that? And it was a tackle. It was just a tackle.
It's a classic football fan thing. You know, it's like the referee gets it wrong. So you want him to be wrong again?
Yeah.
You know, I'd rather if he gets it wrong once, I'd rather he got it right next time.
But how does it happen? I'd understand this debate if it was at Old Trafford and he'd be like, he'd been swayed by United to go against Liverpool, but he was at Anfield, but he wasn't, which is goes back to the point about Ferguson.
I think that's really interesting is that Shelvey had a go at Ferguson. Okay. So I don't know what Ferguson said or Ferguson
all right,
did.
I'm going to inside the gossip for you here. Yeah. Right, so I have little friends in and around the place. Yeah. John Joe firmly believes in the time it took to get him red carded. And I've watched this because I'm anal. I watched it. I had a rant at watching Mark Lawrenson, but I was told before I watched Match of the Day last night. How he does that? So he's getting information from the fourth official. Okay. Right? Yeah. And John Joe Shelvey allegedly is absolutely convinced that Ferguson leaping up and down at the fourth official turned that into a red card.
What manager wouldn't do that?
I know, but that's his justification for it.
But hold on. So let's go back. Really simply, I came all the way from fucking South London to that game. That man's decisions ruined my day. It was a waste of time. It ruined all the money that I'd spent to come on, because actually, as soon as one player goes off, that's the game ruined as a proper competition, I think. Although we dominated with 10 players, but we were always going to lose it. So that's the end of that. But I think there's two real big questions here. One is how the way United and Ferguson, as an individual, is allowed now to bully football and to dominate and affect games and decisions. And I'm not saying that Rogers wouldn't have been able to do that, and he probably would have shouted at, but he doesn't have the same sway.
Gravitas.
That man has more sway than is healthy for the game.
Well, it's her because you got to look and say he's earned it over the years.
Yeah, well, that's fine. He has earned it, but it's still wrong. Well, he shouldn't have more sway than. As
I say, I mean, I believe in the integrity of referees. I don't think Halsey was influenced. I think he just got a couple of things wrong. I think they were so marginal they could have gone either way, and he got them wrong. I don't think he had any. I think what's more insidious, and I think where Ferguson does have real power, and United have real power, is at the FA and G14 level, where they're great operators, and frankly, Liverpool are amateurs. Yeah. And I think we saw it last year in the Suarez thing.
Right. Well, my next point is going to be PR.
Yeah, PR. I've got down in United spin machine. You go to the post-match interviews. Brendan, I thought, was really subtle. Brendan didn't do a let's lash the referee. I think his actual terminology of we need help in those type of situations, we got no help, is as polite a way of saying the referee's had a shite day at the office as he can get away with. But Ferguson can get away with just going for the jugular. Shelvey does something wrong. I mean, the other message I got is prepare for John Joe Shelvey's career to go off the rails, because the lad will never have to buy another pint for as long as he lives after the mouthful he gave Red Nose. But they said that obviously, but he's now got something in the same way as he managed to use the Suarez not shaking the hand and comment on the fact that the man's a disgrace and should never play for Liverpool again. They spin. James said it. Wrote an article about it. Posh James wrote an article about it. They spin everything beautifully.
The better at it than us.
Yeah, of course.
And you know what? We're amateurs, and that's the thing. We should be doing that. You know what? He manages to carry this off. You know, Shelvey gives him loads as he comes off. You know, I'm going, yeah, tell him, lads. And then Ferguson comes out and he's like, what are you going to do? You know, he
should look at himself.
He said he was very silly.
Yeah.
You think
I've got it here. You built up. You mentioned the Suarez, and we were all aware that Lucas was one of that. Right. So this week, Shelvey shouts at Ferguson. Ferguson Shelvey was perceived that he had influenced that decision. No. Ferguson's the victim. Because Ferguson spins it. Halsey ruins the game, produces the worst refereeing displays in the Premier League, one of the worst refereeing displays in Premier League history. He gets some prick on saying something. Two pricks on
1%. If they were both at the game, 1% of the audience. 0.1% of the audience.
He's now the bit. United fans keep quiet when the cameras are on. They chant unpleasant things if the camera is off. Not reported. It's convenient.
James read me an article driving up here today from the Metro that unfortunately sums up, I think, the way the day went for us, because the article in the Metro says that this happened, pretty much everything you've outlined, Ian, and it says, and right at the end, 2 Liverpool fans ran towards the opposing supporters making aeroplane gestures. Not that halfway through the game they changed the words to "You'll never walk alone" into "You'll always die alone" halfway through it as well. None of that. So as James said, it comes across when you read the article as we started it, they retaliated.
Someone who works in newspapers and decides what goes in. I mean, the fact is, everyone always says to you, point out what they said, and and then you get the vice versa, point out what they said. The reality is, I thought on Sunday they throughout "You'll Never Walk Alone." I thought they were dignified enough when they did the flowers and the release of balloons. Yeah. Throughout "You'll Never Walk Alone," they chanted 19, which is their right to. I wouldn't want them to join.
No,
it's one of them. And I thought throughout the game, when the families were there, they maintained enough dignity. That's fine. At the end, I kind of thought, it's almost move on. We're going to go back to where we are, the ugly stuff. You know what? But it's like for every Liverpool fan that tweets me and says, point out what United fans are doing, singing about highs or singing about that. I get United fans saying, point out about Harold Shipman in Munich. Yeah. You know what? A knob's a knob.
So Ian says there are feral people in all walks of life. We have feral people. Yeah. They have feral people.
This gets me right, but it's just. I mean, there is also the point of the whole idea that there's public address system now all around Anfield, which says don't be racist, don't be offensive, don't be homophobic. There's no fucking gay. There's apparently no gay footballers in. I'll go on to that another time. But the funny thing is, when I heard that, I always think of Evertonians, and when they talk about Alex Young, the Golden Vision. I'd turn queer for him. Homophobia. They underestimate football fans. But so. There were no, United said, well, if somebody shouts offensive things, they will be banned. There were 6 chants. Nobody was arrested. Nobody was taken out. That happened. That's not been talked about. But my key point, I think, is that now that's gone viral. All that stuff about them chanting and stuff, and now that's a small proportion of every Man United fan. Some of my best mates are Man United fans. Okay, I hate that bit about them. But they're my friends. Okay, I'm a reasonably rational person. Okay.
Oh, I don't know about that.
I won't now retaliate by being fucking disgusting and awful and saying repulsive things. So what we should do as people who are better than that, okay, is not retaliate. What we have to do is not go, fucking hell, they're feral scum, and then wind up some other fucking Liverpool idiot who will then do something as bad, if not worse, to them, and then give them ammunition and do the same thing. Then their people then come back, and then it goes on and on and on and on.
History gives us a greater responsibility to be right, and those who let us down that way, my Paul, and I'm no paragon of virtue. I was 16 in 1977. I went, I was going to Old Trafford. My first time at Old Trafford was 1972, and I was going with my mates from 1974. And I've said and done things there. When I was a kid. I'd never deny it. I've said the worst sort of things, but you grow up and you realise, and the moment I realised that all the Munich stuff was wrong was in 1985 at that semi-final at Goodison, which was the most violent game I've ever been to. Worse than Rome, worse than Brussels. They were just fighting in every section of the ground. The things that were being said and done were just unbelievable. It was like and I was sitting 2 seats in the main stand at Goodison from the director's box, and everyone was giving it loads of Munich. And I looked into the director's box, and there was Bobby Charlton sitting there, and I thought, his mates died there.
Yeah.
And it's one thing to say, oh, we Munich this, Munich that, to a bunch of fellas who were nowhere near it. Yeah. But that moment, that day, I thought, that's bad.
But as you said, my worry is that without the education, how many young, prior to this last week, how many young, hopefully, the events of the families, the events of the truth, might have actually lifted the lid to perhaps a generation of United fans that grown up chanting with absolutely no real understanding of what they're chanting about.
You've got 25-year-olds coming who might travel to Anfield who aren't old enough to understand what happened in 1989, or even the cultural context. But the cultural context that even football was in at that point. The fact that football was vilified for being football, the human tragedy was just ignored. Yeah. It was just another bad thing football did. You know, the fact that, and that was the thing that for 23 years.
That's a really good point, because I get loads of people tweeting me and like sort of, and they come on to me and they say, you know, you all didn't have tickets, you all bunked in, because they can only see it in the context of now. They can't see it in the context of an FA Cup semi-final that didn't sell out, that wasn't on television, and that, like, you know, it's you could go up and walk up to the ground the day, like I did the day before, and buy a ticket, you know, and so they can only see it in their own terms, and you know, and they're very silly young boys. Well, I was a silly young boy once, so I kind of feel.
But don't you think that without that level of education, without the level of any education, we generate we've gathered education through age, wisdom, and becoming fourth blokes sitting here.
I wouldn't go that far,
right? Whatever. But you get some levels of it as you get older, right? Hopefully now we've managed to, the results of last week hopefully have managed to educate a generation of people that I think perhaps might be shamed now into not actually saying anything going forward.
The number of people who apologised to me.
Yeah.
You know, it's a senior editor at the Times sent me an email and said, I feel really ashamed. I believe the lies and I spread them. He said, like, I just don't know how I can face you.
My accountant's a blue, Chelsea. My accountant's a blue, and he sent me a beautiful email that said, because he knows I was there on the day, and said, but he sent me a beautiful email and said, I've never believed it. I've sat and listened. I've never believed what was said. I've never believed the truth. I always partly believed the lies. I always thought it was just the press overhyping it, but I always thought there was no smoke without fire. And the last part, he said, I sat and cried out of shame today, and I thought that was absolutely fantastic.
And there's loads of people like that. And the thing is, about Man United in particular, which we're talking about, their older generation, their boys, they got it from early on. You know, I've met them over the years. I've met loads of them, and they've said, you know, I hate you, you scouse bastards, but we're with you over the
Well, you know, and that's why we have to be, as men, a bit more responsible and not be outraged.
Don't you think it'd be fantastic to be just
idiot.
Pure silence whenever that happens in the future?
I think that's what's happened, though. It unfortunately, it took the 23-year wait for that truth to come out, but then a lot of authoritative voices were able to go out and say it was lies. This is the truth was it was an awful tragedy because of a series of things that went wrong. Well, and then suddenly you're having to reverse 23 years of people's understanding then, and that doesn't happen overnight. But I think the association now with saying with vile chants has been diluted a bit. It's not going to go away because idiots, like we said, idiots.
Well, the more you publicise it, the more they're going to do it.
Well, that's the key thing, isn't it? It's the more you publicise it. It's like, you know, the Halsey thing. It takes 2 fucking tweets.
Well, I'd like to just.
I mean, I'm sure there were. Actually, you know what? There weren't 2 tweets. There must have been hundreds of.
No, yeah, but there were 2 tweets. There were 2 tweets he's reported to the police, and I hope whoever those sent those get the full weight of what's coming to them.
You know what? I get nasty tweets. I get about nasty, stupid tweets, and you know what I just do? I just ignore them.
Block. Avoid.
Oh, I don't. I offer them out. I mean, come and see me. You know, I'm visible. You're anonymous. Come here. Let's have it. You know, and
James gets nasty tweets about the sound on the podcast.
To be fair, I generally address the spelling first, and then
you know, because like people go upset where I talk about swearers. You know, someone tweets me and says your mother's a whore, and I'm like, this is a woman from Liverpool 3 who was widows when she was in her 30s and she brought up 4 kids. She's like, she should be a Scouse hero.
Yeah.
You know, she turns out a son who come from the Scotland Road, who become the football editor of the Times. I'm not saying that's that big a deal. I'm not like bigging myself up. But he's called a whore. I'm like, come at.
You would, wouldn't you?
Jimmy Griller, the people's pose he got himself. I'm like, make yourself known, come and see me. We'll sort this out. I'll show you my mother's all.
Do you remember that? I mean, obviously, similar going back to Jay. I think it was very similar to Jamie and Adrian Durham on the radio, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Offer them out. Go get down there and get to see them. Yeah.
But should we just go back on to football?
Yeah, you're looking at. We've obviously had the bad news today. Martin Kelly's out with a cruciate ligament injury for a year.
Is it a cruciate?
It's a cruciate.
Definitely till 2013.
Yeah.
Said.
Yeah, it'll be at least 6 months.
It looked frigging horrendous when you saw it in slow motion.
Those injuries are like, you're 6-8 months.
You're looking at. I'm not. The longer it takes them to tell anything to us about Daniel Agger, the worse I'm expecting it's going to be. Do you agree, Tony?
It was a bone bruise.
Yeah, it's not.
What isn't that? I thought they put the lid on that. I thought they said he's just a. Oh right, okay.
They won't confirm anything on Daniel Agger.
Imagine if he didn't have brittle bone disease.
He'd be immense, wouldn't he?
Yeah.
Barini injured ankle, MRI scan, probably out for 2 to 3 weeks. Okay. So we're all losing sleep over that one.
So centre half were basically Carragher or Coates.
I hope he plays Coates.
I hope he plays Coates.
I play him. He's got to learn. Again, talking about positional sense as centre half.
I would have put Kelly in centre half otherwise, but
Kelly would be a good centre.
Kelly came through the academy as our most promising centre half. That's the old.
I just want to see Glenn Johnson at right back because he's been one of our best players this year, and yet he's been playing on the left for the entire season.
Kenny thought playing him at left back was preferable because it stops him bombing on going forwards. It makes him think about where he's playing.
What a clever!
No, I could see that, but if you think
what a clever man.
What he's been doing under Rodgers though, he's like he has been like our left side, hasn't he? But the thing is, the fact he's more.
I'd much rather see him. This is how far you talk about how far Stuart Downing slept down the picking order. I don't care if it's left or right side of midfield. I think Johnson's one of our most offensive players. And should be given his head to go and be offensive and put a defender in behind him.
I was so gutted when not just because of the penalty, but because the fact that Johnson had clattered into Agger and then caught up with Valencia, didn't touch him, and yet still give away a penalty. You're like, jeez.
I'll tell you what. You know what? Do you know? But you know how you can tell how bad that decision is because Reina took. I have never seen. Never seen Pepe Reina react like that for the decision whatsoever. Never. He can be a bit explosive at times, but I've never seen a reaction like that.
That was Johnson running through a brick wall, wasn't it? That was like he ran. Valencia's no slouch, is he?
Glenn Johnson's a better player than anyone gives him.
I do. He was our best player for England, wasn't he? What does that mean, mate? I'm sorry.
It means we've got 3 minutes.
3 minutes to what?
Till we run out of tape.
Right. Well, I'm only halfway through your script now. So
it's all right. We'll carry on.
Do you want to change it now?
We're still talking about the Manchester United game. We're just getting some beers in here at the moment. We're rolling.
Oh, we're rolling?
We're back. Let's have a party.
All right, Posh James. You've got to go home early or something. Jesus Christ. I wanted to stop. Were you going to talk about the United game? I want to move on to other stuff.
Well, just very briefly, I was just saying because while we were having a break, we were talking about the difference between the way Swansea press and the way Manchester United press, and that Swansea pressed higher up the pitch because of the lesser ability of their players. So once they got the ball, they were fantastic at keeping it, but their actual conversion rate was obviously far lower, especially away from home. Brendan, when he came to Liverpool, thought he was going to be playing with better players and therefore the conversion rate would go up. Obviously, we all know we didn't buy any strikers, so therefore that theory goes out the window. What he has allowed, I think, not automatically already, is I think he's slightly... I've seen, for me, good progression every game, but I do think he's slightly relented and said to certain players, especially Gerrard, if it's on, do it. Because he is trusting in the ability of the players.
I think what's interesting is, especially when we went down to 10 men on Sunday, is it was crying out for someone like Carroll. When at times you have to bang it, and Stephen could have gone and played off him, and and I thought that's where we for all the football we played too much football in the wrong areas, and we're not direct enough. And I think that is something that needs to be
and
addressed.
Also,
Suarez didn't understand that role at all. Didn't seem to understand the role of if he gets the ball just hold the bloody thing.
Yeah, well,
Don't be flicking it off.
But also, let's be honest, the way that I spoke to a couple of Mancs outside the ground because they're in the corporate bit where I was, right? And they said they were fearful. They were fearful on the day, because they think that most people can drive a bus through United's defence. But let's be honest, the way they were playing at the weekend, Carroll would have eaten Ferdinand and Evans on the day. Absolutely eaten them alive on the day as well.
I'll tell you what, he would have pushed them 2 round up physically, and it's like talking about the Barcelona way and all that. But there's more than one way to play football, and I personally like a bit of physicality.
Me too.
We'll sort that out later. Other stuff.
The wrestle something.
There was talk about this week about in the Daily Mail, because I'm obviously a subscriber. It's just up my street that the £150 million plans to redevelop Anfield are happening to a 60,000 seater stadium with 7,000 corporate seats, and that
all of which will be part of Glenn Johnson's contract to replace his box.
The whole idea of moving to another stadia is been abandoned. Any ideas?
Well, yeah, I mean it's a story kind of. They have detail, so which is quite good. But I mean, it's I think the new stadium ship sails in the spring. I was one of the people who banged the drum. I think Fenway Sports Group got it wrong. I think they misunderstand what's going on. I think they misunderstand financial fair play, and I think Liverpool needs a new stadium. I'm emotionally attached to Anfield, and I'm made up that we won't be leaving it. But I think it will be detrimental to the club. They believe they can cut a deal with the council. The council, for a long time, over the last year, said, and they said to me and they said to other people, quite categorically, they cannot stay at Anfield. So they either lied to us or they were mistaken. Let's give them the benefit of the doubt. But yeah, there is no new stadium. They intend to stay at Anfield, and they believe they can build it up in a similar way to Fenway. I worry about a couple of things. I worry about the effect on the residents, because there are right to light issues, and I worry that they won't be able to create an environment that will draw people in to these 7,000 corporate seats. Because I mean, you know what, they've got a ground which they're trying to bring people into in effectively a ghetto.
I think that's exactly right. 7,000 corporate seats in one of the poorest areas in Britain. And you know what shocks me every time I go to Anfield? What shocks me is the amount of money that's in that football club, and the amount of money that's in Everton. I mean, Everton might be in debt. There's still a fucking lot of money there, and the lack of effect it's had on the environment of those people there, and that, you know what, that's shameful. Well, I really do think that's shameful.
The sad thing is, and I think we're going to see it very soon, is that the deal that the Inter Milan have done with the Chinese was on the table this spring for Liverpool and Everton. It was a twin stadium strategy which involved building a new monorail from Lime Street up to Everton Valley, and involved a whole massive regeneration. The club, Iain dealt with it.
I'm already feeling bad at those words.
It's John Henry didn't know about it. He didn't know about it the day the Inter Milan deal was done. But Henry believes, I believe, that they can rebuild the stadium. I don't think they have a clear vision of what they want. No, I take that back. They have a clear vision of what they want, but I don't think they have yet come to grips with football. I've been very critical of Fenway Sports Group over the last 2 years. I will say, I think John Henry is genuine. I think he really wants it to work. But everything I see makes me think they haven't quite understood. They're making it up.
Do you think they have an American naivety about the whole thing? I know that's a very stereotypical sentence to make, but I just think their belief that everybody else is going to adhere to financial fair play beggars belief with
No, but
me.
I think if you look across the M62 at Man City, Abu Dhabi have leapt in first with their investment, and Manchester City Council have followed their lead. Whereas if you read John Henry's letter, it was like, well, if Liverpool City Council will back what we're doing, then we'll do it. It's like, no, your Liverpool Football Club, do it, and then the City Council will see what you're doing and want to make that even better, rather than waiting for Liverpool Council to say, here's the plan, you follow us. I don't get that.
It's not the job of the football club to regenerate Anfield. The job of the football club is to win. But
as a catalyst for regeneration, it can't help but being that, can it?
You would hope so, but it's had no effect. I mean, the ground's been sitting there for.
It's astonishing. It's had no effect.
Yeah, and the shops around there, ratty. I mean, mates are from Venmore Street, and that's that's just deteriorated to it's a real mess. You go around.
But is that partly because everybody's expecting any minute for the last 10 years for that stuff to have been knocked down and regenerated?
I don't think it needs knocking down. Those houses are magnificent.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with the houses. Yeah,
4-story houses.
There's just no money in them.
They've just been, they've been left to fall apart, to ruin, and it's you go around there, and I mean. And it really irritates me, being Scouse is I meet people all the time say, I support Liverpool, I wish it wasn't in Liverpool. Oh, and I want to kill him.
What?
Hey? Yeah, it's like, because, I don't like going there, it scares me. It's one of them. But it shouldn't, North Liverpool should be in a better situation than it is. The round Anfield should be better. And it's not the fault of the football club, it's the fault of the council, it's the fault of the government. But
that juxtaposition between the two things is quite marked, though, isn't it? It's quite astonishing. I don't know whether there must be other football clubs that the same thing, but I
can only explain. I can tell you that I've been to both grounds, and the only thing I can find that looks worse for me, and I've been to quite a few of them, is when you go to someone like Celtic and it looks like ELO have landed a spaceship in the middle of Beirut.
Celtic's a very good call, actually.
But that's fairly similar. I love going to Anfield. I never have any problem going to Anfield. I never feel intimidated going to Anfield, even though I speak with a very southern accent. It did do me a lot of problems when I was 16 years old and trying to go to college up there, but not anymore. I think it's a universally accepted fact. In fact, I feel very much in the minority because where I sit, everybody's Norwegian. Absolutely everybody's Norwegian where I sit.
That's off the Norwegians.
And they're great fans.
Now you've got to get into your reason for Rock Lobster.
Well, I was going to say before that, you mentioned it earlier on, and I didn't put it in my list, but this is going to be the longest podcast in the world. I didn't watch it, but the Being Liverpool thing, I didn't watch it.
I can't wait. I can't wait for you to see this.
I've got it. I've got it recorded, but I've not watched it.
I tell you something. Shite. It's probably about as good as I can get with it.
Do you know what's even worse? Right, even worse than the embarrassing stuff.
Yeah.
There's loads of embarrassing stuff, but the worst thing about it's boring.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
And the one thing Liverpool Football Club isn't is boring.
Right.
And it's we can talk about all the. I don't even want to go into the embarrassing stuff. It does make you cringe and all that, but it's dull. It makes it look as if it's something ordinary.
Yeah.
When this is something beautiful, this is something wonderful, this is something life enhancing.
We mentioned this. We've been in the pub before we started with the Marks and Spencer's Belgian Lager.
We've also been sniffing glue.
That's very good. That was a very pleasant afternoon.
I was on the butane gas, to be honest.
I've got Britstick all over my nose.
We'll see what happens in the next couple of weeks, but the report's coming out so far that they've decided now to rub Kenny out of future episodes out of history.
With Liverpool, you want to get rid of Kenny Dalglish.
I think is enough of a reason to not watch the pile of shite in the first place.
His accent was quite difficult, so I think we should just get rid of him.
I think he was a socialist.
Awful.
I think Fenway Sports Group's biggest mistake was to sack Kenny Dalglish. If they would have wanted to move him upstairs, I can say with great certainty that Kenny would have done anything he believed to be in the best interest of Liverpool Football Club, and he would have done it. He would like to be around, he would like to offer advice, he would like to... one of the great things in his life, the thing he values as much as his family, is his status as the second most important man in Liverpool Football Club. And for them to do that to him it shocks me now, and it's a massive mistake. He needs to be back inside that club. He found it very difficult going on Sunday, but he knows he has a responsibility to the families and to the fans, and Kenny Dalglish should never ever find it difficult going back into Anfield. And John Henry, I do know, is aware of this situation, and I would hope he will address it, and we will. You
would have thought our managing director would have done something about that by now.
Well, he was on us early at the time.
As when we were talking earlier in the pub, you know, we did a podcast that, you know, half an hour after the announcement Dalglish had gone. In fact, we'd listened to you on the radio coming in actually. When you were on Talk Sport talking about...
I wasn't happy.
Oh, no, God, no. You were talking...
You were part of our inspiration.
You were talking about the idea of, like, winning trophies is somehow a failure.
Yeah.
You know, and that's what he seems to have been done with. It's... if he'd have won the FA Cup, it would have made no difference. Like that's meant to wash with us. It's a balmy statement.
That work?
No, it's a balmy
Bill Shankly, the purpose of Liverpool Football Club is to win trophies.
Yeah, no, totally.
The purpose of any football club is to win trophies. And once you lose that, the market men have conned people. They've conned them to think about money. And, you know, and like, oh, yeah. Oh, fourth. Oh, yeah, we've got the money. Money? Who cares? Only the men who profit from it.
As I told you earlier, it must be wonderful to be an Arsenal fan and have an open-top bus parade and show your bank statement to everybody every year, because it means fuck all. But that's the great. You said it there. The marketing men have pulled the greatest trick in the world, and even younger Liverpool fans hanker for fourth place.
People say to me all the time, "The game's changed. You're a dinosaur." The game's changed. It's 11 against 11. There's trophies to win.
What kind of dinosaur are you?
Dinosaur. You know what? The reality is I'm a dinosaur. Let's be honest about it.
So, just some happy news. I don't know if anybody else noticed this. Ex-Liverpool midfield player Danny Guthrie is married. He got married this
congratulations,
recently.
Danny.
Good health, Danny. But I think you had a bit too much of this anyway.
He married his Scottish bride Rebecca Middleman in sumptuous surroundings of Allerton Castle in Harrogate. He's recently moved from Newcastle to Reading. It wasn't a conventional function.
In what sense?
Well, the wedding breakfast, they started throwing lobster thermidor at each other, and it sort of got worse from there. They got all apparently incredibly pissed, and then Rebecca's special day was rounded off by being repeatedly punched in the face, needing a hospital scan to check on potential head injuries. This is true.
Let's punch
I give you. It's not the typical script for 4 weddings and a funeral too, but yeah. I don't know. You know, it's difficult, isn't it?
You could pitch that.
I think
Stuart's making
notes
on the script.
Weddings can be confusing. I mean, it's difficult to organise. I always use a little rhyme to remember. It says something old, something new. Punch the bride repeatedly in the face with seafood until she's black and blue. I think that's how it. I think that's sort of how it goes. No, I did, but it's either way, it's going to be a day she'll never forget. Those facial injuries will help her with that. It's a beautiful thing.
I think we've all been to weddings where
I've been to a lot.
Unpleasantness.
Yeah.
But, you don't expect it on that scale, do you? I'm not in Harrogate.
The staff apparently locked themselves in the building. Okay, then, and worse than that, then he leaves Newcastle, fucks off to Reading. He takes the suits with him. They've rented suits. Him and his dad have rented suits from this posh place in the northeast, and they took them with them. There's like $2,000.
You can take The lad out of Liverpool. But you can't take Liverpool out of the
I don't know
lad.
where he's from.
Carrying on with this tittle tattle though, just going back to the being Liverpool thing. It was just if you say how dull it is, when Oxby and Jacobs were talking about this afternoon, their conversation went on the lines of Stephen Gerrard's got a good interior designer, and Brendan Rodgers' house looks like a spa. So that's what they got from being Liverpool.
Yeah.
You know that's what's marketed
The
Liverpool.
one
You
that
say
got
spa.
It looks like a spa.
Which kind of spa you mean?
A
Do you
cheap
mean-
supermarket.
7 to 11.
Yes. The one I've got that they find very odd, I can't quite remember if this is the episode it's been in, but Brendan's got a very large portrait of himself in his hole.
Awesome.
What's the statement?
Shankly would have had that.
No. Two things to say to me about it is like, and Shankly is I think Brendan Rodgers is trying too hard. He should relax. You know, I was really embarrassed by that. I didn't have a silver spoon. I had a silver shovel. One, the analogy doesn't work. Two, you know, it's just
say that?
yes.
Somebody was saying it's a bit like the Office.
And the other one, when you come outside, one of the great things about being manager at Liverpool, they give you a nice car. What Shankly has about him, and I met Shankly, I used to go up the grounds all the time when I was a kid. I lived for a while in Fountains Roads, which is just around the corner, and I'd go up, you know, to pre-season, you know, I'd be there every day. Shankly was totally unself-conscious. He didn't know he was being Shankly. He just was. So, you know, he did his stuff, and it was like he was just being what he was.
It's what you're saying, Brendan. We've had too many "you can die for the shirt" quotes already, can't you? It'll be my last breath to fight and die for this club.
You're a good young manager. Do your stuff.
And on that,
don't try
but
out.
on that note, Tony, as well, it was touching for the first time, and they defended their manager because you're getting sacks in the morning from United, and the cop responded for the first time with "there's only one Brendan Rodgers," and I think. If anything the young man needs to take from that is now, shut up. Yeah. They're on your side. Yeah, you're not Roy Hodgson, they're on your side. Yeah.
We all want him to be the most successful manager in the history of Liverpool Football Club. Right, stop trying to be Shankly, be yourself, and just relax.
Yeah. You've got us, we're on board, just, use it.
Relax, don't do it.
Which leads perfectly into...
Lovely. So, very quickly, the two games got coming up. West Brom in the Milk Cup and Norwich.
Well, on the subject of Norwich, I've got some news for you on the subject of Norwich.
Ooh.
Is that if we get time, if Iain hasn't used all the tape, you'll see Pass and Move, the new episode, which is a preview game, which is a little bit of information, including the Matrix from Australia, who'll be giving some statistical analysis on Norwich. So should be released on the day of the game. So tune in for that. It's a free episode as well.
He's going to be in Norwich.
No, he's going to be on Skype.
Okay, cool.
He's going on Planet Matrix.
West Brom away in the Milk Cup.
Well, if you win the it's a Little Woods Cup, isn't it?
I like it. I like calling it Milk
He always calls it the Milk Cup.
Just because it's
actually the Carling Cup now, isn't it?
Because you remember when we won the
so
Milk Cup? If you go in the museum, they've got a picture. They've got the actual milk cup there, and it looks like a fucking milk bottle. And how's football come now?
Well, we had the Rumbelows Cup where the Employee of the Month used to give the trophy.
But do you remember
when it was called that? Do you remember?
Yeah, I do. Yeah. But do you remember with the Milk Cup though? And they shaped it like a milk bottle.
That was good.
And you'd have thinking like, like you say, football has changed so much.
But that was before the marketing men won, wasn't it? You
Yeah,
know what I mean? It was a bit kind of like
no, but
they
it's
were
like
dipping their toes into something they didn't know what it was.
At the time, we needed the milk marketing board's money.
Yeah.
That's how far football's come.
Oh, yeah,
it was unbelievable.
You know,
so away at West Brom, will he play all those kids again at West Brom?
The lesson on last year, yeah, he will. Because the lesson on last year is you win that Milk Cup and you might get sacked.
I think that's the perfect note to end on.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, gentlemen. And we should, I guess, we should go into those games with high-end confidence. I think.
Look, if you play like you did against Man United, you're going to have a chance. For me, the big test is seeing if we can play like that.
Lovely.
That is the issue, because you can't judge it on a performance against Man United in a game like that. Norwich away, it has become a very bad.
What's Brendan's statement? Season starts next week.
Yeah, well, you know what?
It's a bit late.
It starts in August.
It's a bit late for me.
Yeah, we've got a must-win game now.
Rush.